Yeah, so there was, just to reiterate, it was extremely painful where having to find veins so they could administrate my chemotherapy. Chemotherapy lasted for 9 weeks. I was an inpatient in hospital. I was allowed out of hospital, but I many times when I was sent home, I often had to come back in again because my body temperature kept rising above 39 degrees. There's 37.5 degrees, I beg your pardon. And as soon as that happens, because chemotherapy does alter the temperature. I don't know the scientific sort of terms around it, but I do know that it alters your body temperature, and they don't like it exceeding a certain amount. Well, every time I was sort of sent from hospital, my temperature would go sky high, so I'd have to go back in, and it was just a thoroughly awful experience. Chemotherapy finished on August the 26th, 2009. I had a CAT scan on September the 3rd. On September the 15th, I was given the results of my CAT scan. The CAT scan showed that all the tumours in my abdomen had gone. 2 of the tumours on my left lung had gone. A tumour remained and still remains on my left lung, but it is dead. It's not growing, it's not shifted in size, it's not moved in shape. So I think my oncologist is 99% certain that is now a dead tumour. As far as I'm concerned, I look back on chemotherapy and and I think it's my best friend. I wouldn't be here now if I hadn't had chemotherapy. And all those dreadful side effects that I went through, such as the hair loss, which is very humiliating, where you can just pull out your hair in chunks. It's a terrible experience. And the fact that my lung collapsed, and which was very painful and very scary. Even though all of that happened, and even when it was happening, I was grateful for having for that chemotherapy going into my body and killing all the cancer that was inside me. I looked at it as a bleach, just sort of bleaching my body and bleaching all the badness inside me. And since August the 26th, 2009, I've not had to have any more surgery. I've not had to have any more chemotherapy. My tumour markers in my blood are normal. All my X-rays and CAT scans appear normal. I just thank my oncologist, and I thank medical science for chemotherapy. That is my opinion. I do know that there are many others, as I said at the very beginning of this interview, who've survived cancer and without having had chemotherapy. I do know there's an argument against it. I'm on a forum for men with cancer. Some of them swear blind that they will not have chemotherapy and that they are okay. There are others on the forum who say, no, you're absolutely ridiculous, you need the chemotherapy, get the chemotherapy. It is an argument. There is an argument to say it's not needed. My name is Adam Tomlinson, and I'm a cancer survivor. On June the 8th, 2009, I was diagnosed with a non-seminoma cancer in the lower part of my abdomen. Subsequent CAT scans and blood tests showed that I had stage 3 cancer. The cancer had spread into other parts of my body. It had gone to the lungs, where 3 tumours were now resting on the left lung. And inside my abdomen, in the upper part of my abdomen, I had several tumours also growing on the. I actually don't know what the technical term is, but a tube linking my abdomen to my heart, there was a cluster of tumours growing on there. I had an operation, a fairly minor operation, to remove the tumours in my lower abdomen, but to get rid of all the other tumours and the cancer in my blood, as my blood markers had proved my cancer had spread all around my body and was in my blood, I had to start chemotherapy. Chemotherapy began on July the 3rd, 2009. I will argue, I will state, I firmly believe that chemotherapy saved my life. I do know that there are cancer survivors out there who have survived cancer without having had chemotherapy. But my oncologist, Professor Clark, who's based at a place called Clatterbridge in the United Kingdom, was insistent that I had intensive chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is dreadful. It is the most it's the most dreadful experience I can honestly say I've ever been through. My hair fell out, my body hair fell out, my left lung collapsed because of the weight of the chemotherapy on one of the lungs. My lung folded over, which restricted my breathing. I vomited daily. I had severe diarrhea sometimes, terrible constipation at other times, a cough which I still have because of all the irritation as a consequence of the chemotherapy on my lungs. Sleepless nights where I just slept the whole night through. Chemotherapy was quite dreadful. And where they have to administrate the chemotherapy, they attached a tube to my arm here and pumped in the chemotherapy into my arm, which subsequently went round my body. But after a while, the veins on your arm begin to dry up because of all the chemotherapy and all this sort of the injections and the prodding around and finding a vein so they can administrate the chemotherapy became